Hey, good morning, everyone. I think we can start. Let's just give 1 or 2 minutes. Hey, good morning, and I want to start with a very warm welcome to Prof. Marwala, Prof. Peterson, Prof. Madani, Dr. Mkwebi, Prof. Loken, Prof. Maharaj, all the UN representatives that we have in the room, all ambassadors and other members of the diplomatic community, university and industry representatives, and really also students that's in the room, because this is what it's about today. So this is really a joyous occasion. I'm the director of Future Africa, so I really want to welcome you to this beautiful campus, but you will hear today, it's not just about the campus, it is actually about the work that we do, and the research and the convening of different stakeholders. So the launch today is about the United Nations University Hub on Resilient Environment, Agriculture, Climate and Health for Africa. Very nice word, REACH-AFRICA. So that is what you need to remember, REACH-AFRICA, and that is what this is about. So without further ado, I'm going to start introducing the speakers that's going to give some opening remarks and also tell you a bit more about these initiatives. And I'm going to start with our Vice Principal, Prof. Francis Peterson, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Wanda. You haven't introduced yourself, but I'll introduce her. She's the Program Director, Professor Wanda Makota, but also Interim Director of Future Africa. So thank you very much for that kind introduction. There is such a lot of people that I would like to welcome. To a certain extent, I can probably say that our Program Director already welcomed all of you, but I do think it's probably good just to recognize the people in the room this morning. So good morning to the ambassadors and high commissioners that's present here. I've met some of them as we came in this morning. To all our officials from government, different government departments, to a very good friend, Professor Salithi Mawala, Rector of the United Nations University, and also the United Nations Under Secretary General. And I know that there is also a large delegation from the United Nations University. To heads and representatives of international and regional organizations present here this morning, colleagues from partner organizations. Also want to recognize our Vice Principal for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Education here at the University of Pretoria, Professor Sunil Maharaj. I've seen a couple of deans that walked in, that's here this morning, UP Deans, Director and colleagues. And then to everyone joining us today, and I want to emphasize also the presence of the students. Universities and collaboration research is not only about research that need to be conducted that make an impact on society, but it's also to ensure that we have the next generation of professionals, of human capital that's available to be able to work in this system and sector. So hearty welcome to all of you. So for me, it's important that we remember that we're celebrating the exciting launch of the UNU Hub on Resilient Environment, Agriculture, Climate and Health for Africa. As Wanda has indicated, in short, is REACH-AFRICA. I think what an appropriate acronym. We can proudly say that this hub personifies by Africa, for Africa, in Africa, and is inclusive of strong Pan-African and global partnerships. And what better hub could we possibly lead than one on resilient, on the environment, on agriculture, climate, and health for Africa. This is the first kind in Africa and the global south, and you will probably hear some of the speakers referring to that. It will link with the UNU's Institute for Water, the Environment and Health, and existing UNU hubs in the global north, and will facilitate the South-North collaborations, but with a strong emphasis on amplifying the voice and influence of African science and African scientists. One of the key drivers of this hub is to address the lack of African voices in global science. This is strongly emphasized by the director of the REACH-AFRICA, Professor Tafatsa Mahaudi, an extraordinary professor here at the University of Pretoria, but he's also a professor of climate change, food systems and health at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and also is an affiliate of the UNU's Institute for Water, Environment and Health, and lead developer in setting up this hub with Future Africa at University of Pretoria. So despite a wealth of internationally recognized scientists from Africa and the internationally recognized research-intensive universities and institutions on the continent, the African agenda does not get advanced as strongly as it should in the global discourse. That doesn't mean that we're not present. It is just, I think, we need to be able to ensure that there are more larger platforms that we are creating so that that voice becomes more profiled. It is not the lack of expertise, it is underrepresentation in global forums where our science can be taken up and put into practice and also into programs that we offer. Through the many linkages and research partnerships we have already established and that are possible in this era of knowledge without borders, it is incumbent on us all to springboard African science into the global agenda, working across systems from the local to the global to take relevant African solutions into the global space. So REACH-AFRICA, the program that or the platform, the hub that we launching today, is all about this, where our universities take the lead in engaging academic, but also very importantly, non-academic partners and communities, and actively support the development and implementation of solutions. And I think that implementation of solutions we all will do together, and that really is the whole aspect of collaboration and co-creation. By extracting experts and talent, the UNU Hub on REACH-AFRICA will build a consortium to do the work and to contribute to the development of the pipeline of young, upcoming African scientists trained at the interface of climate change, water, land, agriculture, biodiversity, and planetary health. Through the UNU Hub on REACH-AFRICA, we want to see projects that generate cross-cutting policy-led evidence in these areas. And we want to help support practical climate adaptation projects that reflect both the scale of the challenge and Africa's leadership in developing solutions to ensure a just and resilient future for Africa and the world. So there's a major challenge that we are putting forward to the UNU Hub, but the way that we have structured it and the collaboration, the expertise behind that, and the future development of skills, I'm 100% sure that we will be able to deliver on exactly that objective that we set. Africa faces one of the world's most urgent and interconnected environmental and health challenges, all of which directly impact water, food, and ecological security, and very importantly also human well-being. We all too frequently witness the consequences of climate change with regard to the continent's water resources. On the one hand, we are experiencing widespread, devastating floods, and on the other hand, we are also experiencing widespread, devastating droughts. Both directly cause countless death, loss of livelihoods, waterborne diseases, sanitation disasters, malnutrition, and starvation across the continent. All of us recognize our universities as a resource, but also as an asset to our countries, our continent, and indeed the world. We rise to the responsibility of applying our knowledge and skills to address the challenges expressed in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but also the African Union's Agenda 2063. The UNU Hub and Reach Africa will focus on research, on education, and policy issues related to water, agriculture, land, climate change, and planetary health in Africa and beyond. It will develop and implement joint and collaborative education and capacity programs with the UNU, build and strengthen strategic partnerships, and provide students, staff, and the public with a solid understanding of the interrelationship that exists between water, the environment, health, agriculture, and also climate change. So internationally, the University of Pretoria has a strong presence with over 230 international partnership and collaborators in more than 50 countries across 6 continents. And here, the University of Pretoria's Future Africa campus, which was launched in 2019, was specifically created as a collaborative platform for research that works across the sciences and with society and address Africa's biggest and most urgent contemporary challenges. Its fundamental purpose is to develop and unleash the transformative potential of African sciences and to be the go-to forum, so to speak, where quality local and global partnerships come together to innovate and to share transdisciplinary approaches and solutions. So this is a platform that really is exactly created to fit in very nicely with the work of the UNU Hub on Reach Africa. Through the generation of high-quality scientific evidence addressing health impacts of environmental and climate change, and the integration of local, traditional, and indigenous knowledge, it will be possible to strengthen Earth surveillance and early warning systems to inform adaptation, planning, resilience, mitigation, and pandemic preparedness. What is most encouraging, if I look back, and I've spoken to some of the UNU colleagues earlier this morning, about the speed at which Reach Africa has been established. They often say that universities are institutions that operates very slowly, they move slowly, but we should actually use this example to illustrate the contrary. It was initiated by Professor Mahodi with support from the UNU Institute of Water, Environment and Health at the beginning of this year, when we shared it with the University of Pretoria's Professor Frans Swanepoel, who is also the research chair in sustainable food systems, and with Professor Vanda Makota, who referred Professor Mahodi to me, and we immediately, together with our Vice Principal for Research and Innovation, got going with the concept. We also acknowledge the support and partnership of Professor Kaveh Madani, the director of the UNU Institute for Water, Environment and Health, as he matched our enthusiasm and passion and goal for establishing the first UNU hub in Africa in the Global South. And several months later, this is where we are now, celebrating this momentous celebration in later on the signing ceremony to officially launch this hub. It proves that we can act fast and diligently, and this is what Africa, I believe, needs. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for being here, and we cannot wait to see what this hub will achieve. Hearty welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Petersen. So we'll move on to the next remarks, and we're really privileged to have Prof. Marwala here from the United Nations. He's the United Nations Under-Secretary General and Rector of the United Nations University. And I want to just say a few words, because he actually did his master's in engineering at University of Pretoria. So he's got very, yeah, so he's got really strong links with the university and also well known in the South African environment. Thank you, Prof.
Good morning. Sanibonani, Dumelang, Goeiemorgen, Ndimacheroni. Distinguished guests, excellencies, dear colleagues. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the presence of ambassadors who actually host our institute. I will start with the ambassador of Japan, Ambassador Shimizu, who is the host of our headquarters in Tokyo. We also have the High Commissioner of Canada, who also hosts our institute that is launching this initiative today. We also have representatives from from Portugal, where we have our institute that focuses on governance. We also have many of you who have expressed interest of hosting us. All I can say is that we are actually working on it. We also have representatives from China who host our institute that focuses on technology in Macau, Special Administrative Region of China. So, thank you very much for coming. It is indeed a great deal of joy and pride that I stand before here today to mark this truly historic occasion. The launch of the United Nations University Hub on Resilience, Environment, Agriculture, Climate, and Health for Africa. Yes, we need to reach the clouds. And the acronym could not have been chosen better. And it has to happen here at the University of Johannesburg, no, University of Pretoria. It was meant to be a joke. For those of you who do not understand the joke, I used to be the Vice Chancellor of University of Pretoria, of Johannesburg. This is not just the first UNU hub in Africa, it is also the first ever in the Global South. Our presence in the Global South needs strengthening. And I have to thank the Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, whom I have worked with for many, many years. And I am looking forward to hosting him in Tokyo when he visits TICAD later next month, for being a pioneer of ensuring that this link to the Global South, which is not only important or essential, but it is actually imperative if we are to deal with issues of climate change, if we are to deal with issues of peace and security, if we are to deal with issues of rapid technological development that is catalyzed by artificial intelligence. It marks a milestone not only in the evolution of UNU hubs, but also in the 50-year journey of the United Nations University itself. This concept of a hub is actually new. It came during my tenure. And the first hub that we launched was in Calgary. The second one was in Hamburg. The third one was in Lund. The fourth one was in Paris. The fifth one is in Pretoria. And we are going to China to launch the sixth one. So it's a very important way in which we can be able to connect and build an ecosystem that is going to be a critical motive force to solve some of these problems that I have talked about. I am especially proud that this flagship initiative is taking root here in South Africa during the G20 presidency. Last week, I was hosted by the governor of the Reserve Bank of Canada in a forum that was dealing with the issues of finance and AI for the G20 presidency. So this is indeed a privilege that we gather here at the Future Africa campus to bring the spirit and vision of the United Nations to life in Africa. Let me begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to all of you for coming here and for your generous spirit. Your support is absolutely quite essential as partners, as supporters, and some of you as funders, so that we can be able to take these challenges that we face today. Today is the beginning of a shared journey, one that advances a resilient environment, sustainable agricultural systems, meaningful climate responses, and inclusive health for all across the African continent and beyond. This hub, located at the visionary Future Africa campus, represents a bold step forward in harnessing science and technology for sustainable development. It will help communities across the African continent become more resilient, equitable, and adaptive in the face of pressing challenges, climate change, food insecurity, and water scarcity amongst them. It is only fitting that REACH-Africa be established in a place that exemplifies collaboration, innovation, and continental solidarity. At the United Nations University, we are deeply honored to partner with institutions that are in Africa and beyond, and to be able to work with the brightest minds to solve the problems that I have just outlined. Selecting the right partner. The hub will be a platform for Africa-led solutions to African challenges. It will be led by Africa for Africa. Through its wide network of partnerships, it will elevate voices from the global south and bring fresh policy-relevant ideas on the global stage. This is a space to create transformative, scalable responses to the interconnected crises of our time. And we are looking forward to inserting ourselves in the rich intellectual ecosystem of the University of Pretoria, Professor Francis Peterson. A key initiative of this hub will be the African Academy for Water, Environment and Health, led by UNU-INWEH in collaboration with regional and global partners. This transdisciplinary community of practice will drive joint research, build capacities, and design gender-responsive, locally relevant solutions to Africa's most pressing challenges in water, environment, and health, helping accelerate progress toward the long overdue sustainable development goals, where we as the world are actually falling behind. Let me take this moment to extend heartfelt thanks to a number of individuals and teams who have made today possible. Once again, Vice Chancellor Francis Peterson of the University of Pretoria for his visionary leadership and steadfast support in this collaboration. I think we should give him a round of applause. Professor Sunil Maharaj, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Education, whose dedication to global partnerships and interdisciplinary excellence continues to elevate the university's impact. Professor Maharaj, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Kyoto when you come to the STS forum. Let's give him a round of applause. Professor Wanda Makota, Director of Future Africa, whose scientific leadership and unwavering commitment for health, resilience, and sustainability have inspired us all. Thank you for graciously hosting us today. Let's give Professor Makota a round of applause. Professor Franz Swanepoel, Research Chair in Sustainable Food System, for your pioneering work in building Africa's scientific capacity and championing food systems transformation. Let's give Professor Swanepoel a round of applause. In his absence, Professor Tafadzwana She Mabaudi. By the way, Tafadzwana She, it means be happy with him. Professor, here, let's give him a round of applause. He's joining us from Canada. To all the faculty, researchers, and deans and staff of the University of Pretoria and Future Africa, who worked tirelessly to support the planning and vision of this hub, your efforts are deeply appreciated. We are also profoundly grateful to the government and the people of Japan, whose unwavering partnerships over 5 decades has been a foundation of UNU's global impact. United Nations University is the only UN agency in Asia. We don't have another one. And of course, we have been there for 50 years. And we are looking forward to expanding our ecosystems to the rest of Asia through hubs and institutes so that we can be able to deal with the problems that I've talked about. Since our inauguration in Tokyo in 1975, Japan's commitment has empowered UNU to grow into a global network of excellence across 5 continents. I especially thank His Excellency Ambassador Fumio Shimizu for joining us today. Let's give him a round of applause. United Nations University has been around for 50 years. And I am the 7th rector of United Nations. The first rector was from United States of America. The second one was from Brazil. The third one was from Indonesia. The fourth one was from the Netherlands. The fifth one was from Switzerland. The sixth one was from Canada. And the 7th one is from South Africa. I think you can give all those rectors a warm round of applause. I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to the government and people of Canada for their continued support and for graciously hosting UNU-INWEH for nearly 3 decades. Canada's commitment has been instrumental in advancing our global mission on water, environment, and health. I also wish to thank the High Commissioner of Canada to South Africa for being here today with us. Let's give him a round of applause. To the ambassadors and diplomats, it is indeed a privilege Professor Francis, now I'm also a diplomat. It is indeed a privilege that you have joined us today to celebrate this milestone with us. Your support of the UN University has been the reason for our success. Together with you and the great scientists and educators of your nations, we will use science and education to unite the world in this very delicate time in our modern history. To my dedicated colleagues in Tokyo and Toronto and beyond, thank you for your tireless efforts behind the scenes. A special word of appreciation once again to Professor Madani, who will lead and coordinate the REACH-AFRICA Hub with continued support from United Nations University and myself. I would like to extend my thanks to Ms. Sogol Javazadeh, UNU-INWEH's coordinator in Africa, whose presence and engagement in Zimbabwe and across the region have been invaluable in shaping these partnerships and amplifying UNU's impact in Africa. Ms. Sogol, if you could just be acknowledged. And finally, to the students and researchers, this is for you. You will be the heartbeat of this hub. You are the future. So it is not an accident that you are in the future Africa, because you are the future. It has been an honor to meet many of you today. I look forward to witnessing your ideas, your discoveries, and your leadership in shaping a resilient and inclusive Africa. This hub seeks to bridge science, policy, and society at a time when environmental change and water insecurity are defining challenges for our generations. As South Africa leads the G20 this year, championing climate resilience, green industrialization, and the priorities of the African continent, there could not be a more powerful moment to launch this initiative. Thank you all for joining us on this momentous occasion. With our shared commitment and collective vision, I am absolutely confident that this new UNU Hub will be a beacon of hope and a driver of lasting, transformative impact, impactful and important entity for future generations to come. Thank you very much. Enkosi.
Thank you so much, Prof, for those remarks and really valuable comments. So the next speaker is now not unknown to you because you've already seen his face, but this is Professor Kave Madani, who is the director of UNU-INWEH, and INWEH stands for Institute of Water, Environment and Health, who will give the next remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, distinguished guests, excellencies, and colleagues. It's a big privilege to be here. This is my first time in South Africa, and this is a great honor to, I would say, start a new journey with academics in a nation that has inspired the world in many, many ways. And now we celebrate, I would say, start of another collaborative journey with the scientists of South Africa, scientists of the continent and the rest of the world, facilitated by the United Nations University, with your support to advocate for what's right and what the world needs to know. I was born and raised in Iran, and those of us who have seen the different sides of the world know that in today's world we have to do a better job in building narratives that are more inclusive and reflect the reality of the world. When we talk about water, we cannot ignore the farmers. When we talk about farmers, we cannot forget the subsistence farmers who struggle to feed their children. And to the starving children of those farmers, we cannot talk about the future and climate change. We have to talk about today and tonight. And if we ignore those realities on the ground, wherever in the world they are, then we cannot bring the nations together. And in the scientific world, thank you. In the scientific world, we are really challenged with that. A lot of times we have good intentions in the global north to help with the good causes, fighting climate change, fighting inequalities, and so on. But we also have a limited view of how the world functions and what the realities are. So, and we need more voices from the global south. We need more students, more researchers to advocate for those, I would say, realities and bring those things to our attention. And that's when we can work and cooperate on equal foot, when we can sit around negotiations table and talk about realities and then work together. Unless those realities are known, it's very hard to reach global agreements that are actionable. It's hard. It's not hard to take photos and celebrate, but it's really hard to implement and get things done. And you know those things better than I do. So it's a privilege to be here and launch the first hub of the global south in Africa, in a continent that is providing a lot of resources and labor and cheap products to the rest of the world, especially when it comes to food and agriculture, when it comes to critical minerals and all those things that have impact on health and many other on natural resource degradation. And it's very important to start this journey here because we want to know those issues and have the, I would say, important information from the ground, that are evidence-based and rely on scientific data. The idea of the creating the hub was created under Rector Marwala with the understanding that we need to bring the United Nations values in the flag to the university campuses where the students, researchers, and the talent are, because that's where with science and discovery happens. And if we do that, if the United Nations University does that, then we can help the other UN agencies and the member states to deal with their problem using this, the evidence, the scientific evidence. And science and education is an asset that we have today. It's an increasingly dividing world. Some I would say leaders are trying too hard to divide us. But science is our weapon of peace. It's the thing that we have in our hands to fight back. It's something that brings us together. With satellite information, we cannot be fooled anymore. We can look at what is happening around the world, how the land use is changing, how water use is changing, how soil moisture and other things are changing. We can monitor everything around the world and tell stories that are powerful, tell the stories that are real. So the hubs are bringing those values to the university campuses to make the journey more fun for the researchers who have goodwill to help the world, more fun for the students who want to help the world. And I always get together with university presidents and leaders saying that you have incubators and accelerators for those who want to become rich, but we also need accelerators and incubators for the change makers. And that's what the UNU hubs stand for. So we started with the first hub in Calgary, second one in Hamburg, Germany, third one in New York, fourth one in Lund, and now in Paris and Dresden. And now we're celebrating this one here, and soon we will be doing more of this in other parts of the world, because we have people like you who share the enthusiasm and want us to work together on postgraduate education, on research, and only through this partnership we can maximize the resources. That's a good, I would say, a sign that we can mobilize the resources we have available for the shared mission and vision, and that's very, very inspiring. So UNU Hub, UNU was in Africa. It had reached Africa before, but UNU Hubs today reach Africa thanks to your leadership and your partnership and support to I would say further strengthen our collaborations with entities and researchers in the continent. We have UNU-INWEH in this continent. UNU wider has been a big player, UNU-GH, and then UNU-INWEH, and the rest of the UNU institutes around the world in different places. And we want to do more of this together with you. And it's just fascinating to be here. I'm very thankful to a lot of you, to the many ambassadors and nations that have been supporting us, and the distinguished ambassadors and other representatives of the diplomatic community here. It means a lot. Your support has meant a lot to the United Nations university system for the past, I would say, half a century, and we will continue to count on your support to do more with you and your smart researchers. It's always not a smart move to read the names of the embassies, because I might miss some names, but I would do that, and I apologize if I miss any names. But the distinguished ambassadors and other representatives from Algeria, Angola, Canada, China, Cyprus. I have bad eyes. Eswatini, Germany, Jordan, Iran, Japan, Lithuania, Malawi, Nigeria, Palestine, Poland, Portugal, the Dominican Republic, Sri Lanka, Tunisia, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe, and whoever else I've missed, I apologize. It means a lot to have your support. We have been working with your countries. We have tried our best to tell your stories, the stories that come from the ground, and with your help, we can be more inclusive. To the leadership of the University of Pretoria, for your support. It would have not been possible to come here and stand here and to do this. As you mentioned, it was a fast journey to prove that university systems are efficient and can be even more efficient when needed. Future Africa Director, we have a lot of demands and ask for a lot of things, but we sound grumpy and very demanding before we start. But today you see our smiles, and we are very thankful for that. The Vice Chancellor of the university, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, all of you who have been supporting us, the chairs with whom we will be working together, Professor Tafadzwa. I have a bad pronunciation. Mabhadi, who was dedicated this and worked closely with my colleague Sogol Jafarzadeh, who represents us in Africa to make this possible. From day one, it was a top priority for us to ensure that the UNU hubs have representatives in the Global South, and today, with your leadership and help, this is happening. To my team back in Canada and the rest of the world, to our colleagues in Tokyo and the rest of the world, to the directors of the many institutes that have supported this, and they were enthusiastic and supportive of the proposal that came from the University of Pretoria, and to Rector Marwala, an asset of South Africa. And from day one, he said that he might have a potential conflict of interest, and he supports this only if this is one of the best things on the planet. And indeed it is. I know he has been a true asset to your nation, but he's also an asset to the university of the United Nations and the UN system in general. Under his leadership, we have a lot of transformative changes that just are empowering us. To the government of Japan for 50 years of support of the United Nations University, to the government of Canada, our host, for nearly 3 decades, and it's very important to say that the government of Canada, at a time that the UN system is under attack and a lot of funds are being cut, just decided earlier this year to double up our funding, and it shows their appreciation for multilateralism, their commitment to peace building and science, and the fact that 30 years ago they built an institute and supported an institute that stands for water, environment, and health also reflects their visionary, I would say, leadership and understanding and appreciation of the importance of these problems. Together with you, we'll celebrate, I would say, more victories and successes to come. I look forward to working with many of you, the students, researchers, and those who have been supportive of the University of Pretoria. And as we heard, this is a hub, in Africa, for Africa, led by Africa, but its benefits would go beyond Africa. Let's make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks. So we're going to move on to Dr. Thandi Mqwebe, who's our Group Executive for Global Partnerships and Business of the National Research Foundation in South Africa. Thank you, Thandi.
Thank you very much, Wanda, and good afternoon, colleagues, distinguished guests, Vice-Chancellor, Professor Francis Peterson, Prof. Chiliti Marwala, our friend and Rector of the United Nations University, and partners from UNU-INWEH and the broader UNU system, colleagues from government, from the university, civil society that may be joining us online, the diplomatic corps. Ladies and gentlemen, a really, really good afternoon. It's an honor for me to join you today to mark this truly, truly historic moment, the official launch of the United Nations Hub on Resilient Environment, Agriculture, Climate, and Health for Africa, REACH-AFRICA. On behalf of the National Research Foundation of South Africa, I wish to extend a very warm congratulatory message to the University of Pretoria, to UNU-INWEH, and to all collaborators who have contributed to the birth of this ambitious and visionary initiative. As you've heard, this hub is not only the first of its kind in Africa, it's also a powerful symbol of Africa's scientific leadership, agency, and readiness to shape global agendas from the South. And we truly, truly celebrate you, Professor Marwala, for championing these hubs around the world. As we gather here today, you've also mentioned this, we do so in the shadow of multiple crises that are interlinked. Climate change, you've mentioned it, environmental degradation, food insecurity, biodiversity loss, and increasing public health risks. And these are not abstract, as you've said, Prof. Marwala, or they are not distant threats. They are experienced in real time by farmers who can no longer predict rain cycles, for example, by children drinking from unsafe water sources, and by communities that are displaced by climate shocks. And yet, these challenges are really not insurmountable. Africa is not only in the front line of vulnerability, but I believe that it is the frontier of solutions. It is in this spirit that the National Research Foundation proudly stands in support of REACH-AFRICA. We see this hub as a beacon of transdisciplinarity and innovation, which is embedded in African institutions, led by African scientists, and designed and shaped by both local and global responses. Really, three messages that I would like to send and convey today. First, REACH-AFRICA represents a shift in knowledge power, anchoring excellence in the global South. It places African scholars, communities, and institutions at the center of generating context-driven responses and knowledge that can inform policy, improve lives, and influence global discourses. And this is a challenge I'm putting to the researchers and students that will be working in this hub. We are particularly excited about the hub's focus on co-production, integrating indigenous knowledge, scientific rigor, and community engagement. This is what science in service of society should look like. The second message is the NRF sees REACH-AFRICA as a strategic partner in advancing science for sustainable development. The NRF's evolving role of a continental enabler and strategic intermediary is coming to play. We are intentional about cultivating partnerships that are transformative, inclusive, and impact-oriented. Our partnership intent with REACH-AFRICA is clear: to co-design research programs that support resilience in African food, water, land, and health systems. Secondly, to jointly support the next generation of researchers, especially early career scholars and women in STEM. Thirdly, to facilitate science diplomacy and policy translation efforts that enable evidence-based decision-making across Africa and beyond. Through our established NRF instruments and bilateral and multilateral partnerships, we are committed to investing in the long-term success of this hub. Third message is that REACH-AFRICA offers a new model for global collaboration, one rooted in equity and mutuality. As we enter what the United Nations has termed the decade of action for the Sustainable Development Goals, there is a growing recognition that resilient systems cannot be built in silos. Climate, agriculture, health, and water are interconnected, and so too must be our solutions. We welcome the opportunity to work with UNU-INWEH, the wider UNU system, and other development partners to position this hub as a platform for South-South and triangular cooperation. We believe this model, locally anchored, globally networked, is key to unlocking Africa's scientific potential. There's a proverb from my home province, the Eastern Cape here in South Africa, that says, "Izandla ziyahlambana," which means hands wash each other. It reminds us that resilience is not forged in isolation, but through solidarity. We believe that this hub is a living demonstration of that wisdom, where researchers, institutions, governments, and communities come together, not only to understand the challenges we face, but to shape the futures that we desire. As the NRF, we are ready to walk this journey with you as a committed partner in shaping the impact and reach of this extraordinary initiative. We are implementing the presidential PhD program in South Africa, and we see this as one of the initiatives that can champion our partnership with this hub. Congratulations once again. May REACH-AFRICA flourish and grow into a lighthouse for science, hope, and resilience across our continent and our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thandi. And the next words is from me, not as the program director, but as the interim director of Future Africa. I will just say a few words. So Future Africa is the university's collaborative Pan-African platform for research that really works across sciences and with societies to address Africa's biggest problems and most urgent challenges. And I think that resonates very well with what we've heard up to now of what we want to do also with this. And our fundamental purpose is to develop and unleash the transformative potential of African science to inform and inspire a future of African societies. And there's 4 main areas through which we do this, which is lead research in and for Africa, which is fully aligned with this also, to develop Africa's transformative research leadership capacity, which is really important, and the next generation of researchers. Build transformative global partnerships. And the word transformative is important there. It's not just about global partnerships. Foster a culture of dialogue and action for change. And this United Nations University Hub called REACH-AFRICA includes all of our objectives and addresses some of Africa's major challenges. And it specifically bridges the gap between academia and the UN agencies, which is also really something important for us that we've actually been discussed in the university also of how can we be more proactive in this space. And more specifically, also making the UN system more accessible to students and researchers. The focus is very much on training the next generation of world leaders and, as Prof was also saying, change makers. Is really important if we look at this. The focus aligns very well with some of our challenge domains within Future Africa. Sustainable food systems that you've heard is led by Professor Frans Swanepoel. One Health, that is the domain that I function in as a chair. Sustainable transformations by Prof Ramutsendela. I think he's sitting there at the back. That's also part of what we're going to do, as well as our new domain in climate and health that Tafatsu Mabadi has been driving, that you will also hear from soon online. And the research chairs are leading these programs and will play a leading role in this hub. And we're all committed to also putting our effort behind this going forward. And it was also part of the proposal that was put forward. We will link existing initiatives such as the Institute for Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention, that's between 10 universities in South Africa that we're now busy getting off the ground finally. Lancet Countdown Hub, that's very strongly linked to these initiatives. Programs already training students, thinking about Far Leave, where we have PhDs, fellows in already training programs. I was very glad to hear the presidential PhD program being mentioned, because I think that that's also something that we can really link up to. ARUA collaborations that we have across Africa that will all be strengthened by this hub's focus going forward in terms of research, education, and policy. And we're particularly excited about joint education and capacity building programs and the opportunities they will bring to staff, also to students, and our broader partnerships also outside academia that we work with. The hub will also strengthen research and facilitate evidence translation into policy. And Future Africa is really excited and committed to building this partnership to maximize the impact not only in Africa, but also globally, and doing that together with the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you. So the next remarks will be by Tafatsu, and I know Tafatsu really wanted to be here, and the content behind this proposal, I think, Tafatsu, was all yours and your doing. So it's a pity you couldn't be with us today, but we at least made it happen online. And I'm going to give it over to Tafatsu for opening remarks. Or not opening remarks, just remarks, sorry. That was the BC.
So thank you very much, Vanda. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. A special good morning to colleagues in South Africa. I would like to acknowledge all the speakers who have talked and provided remarks before me, not just acknowledging their remarks, but acknowledging their support and leadership in establishing this first UNU hub in Africa and the Global South. And I really appreciate the support and leadership from both the University of Pretoria and the United Nations University System in getting this ambition and this vision to translate into an actual, institution that has now been established and that we are celebrating today. Personally, I'm very passionate about Africa and driving innovation, research, and capacity development for Africa by Africans and with Africans. Very often we travel to a lot of international engagements and meetings And the African voice is always very underrepresented, or the context poorly captured, because our knowledge, our science often does not make it to these platforms. And when it does, it is diluted often. And often then the context, the African context, is not very well represented, and our science tends to lag behind. And we need to do something about it. And we need to form partnerships that transform capacity development, how we train postgraduate students on the continent, how we empower our early career researchers to be global change makers, but also how we drive local solutions that are embedded within our realities, but are responding to global challenges. So I usually talk about local to global solutions, and how we drive this in community and in partnership with everyone, leveraging the strength of community, what we call in South Africa, Ubuntu, to amplify our voice. And I think this UNU Hub, more than anything else and more than everything, it is there to really strategically amplify that African voice, provide a space for transformative postgraduate capacity development, empowering early career researchers to be at the forefront and at the frontiers of innovation and knowledge generation. That fosters partnerships, that informs policies and empowers communities. So at the end, we want to advance policy relevant solutions to global challenges through research, capacity building, and outreach, emphasizing the global south and solutions that can be scaled globally to impact society and the planet. We know very well that as a society and as humanity, we are at the tipping point. We have reached the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold set in the Paris Agreement. The realities of that are already being felt as an everyday lived experience in many areas of Africa. In the Horn of Africa, they've gone through almost five successive droughts. Here in Southern Africa, we've just emerged from one of our worst droughts in the region. At the same time, we've been inundated with flooding, recent flooding in the Eastern Cape, where lives were lost. All of these are happening, and we need to respond. We need the science to lead in driving solutions that are going to not only safeguard and protect people, but help people thrive in this changing world, help people develop and realize their potential. So UNU Hub, Reach Africa, is not just there to be another academic entity or enterprise. It goes beyond academia in terms of fostering strong partnerships with the government, with society, and with civil society, in terms of how do we bring about sustainable and transformative change that achieves real life impact. So I'm really excited to see it being launched today. And I hope that this same momentum that we have started with, the partnerships that are demonstrated through the people in this room. I saw the guest list and quite impressive. I hope we will carry through with these partnerships, we will carry through with this commitment, and that when we meet next time, we'll be talking about big things and big impact that we've all achieved together. So thank you very much, colleagues, and I hope you have a good day further.
I'm getting some exercise today. So the next speaker will be remarks by Mr. Matthew Loken, from the Councillor representing the High Commission of Canada, and as you also heard, very much involved in UNU-INWEH and supporting some of the initiatives of the United Nations University. Welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, UNU Rector and UN Undersecretary General Professor Marwala, Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, Professor Peterson, Director of the UN University's Institute for Water, Environment and Health, Professor Madani, Director of Future Africa, Professor Mercader, esteemed colleagues and partners. I want to begin by just extending warm greetings from Canada's High Commissioner to South Africa, James Christoph, who sends his sincere regrets for not being able to be here in person today. He's actually at the airport right now welcoming our Minister of State for International Development and will be transiting to Kruger National Park for the G20 Development Ministerial, which will start later today and take place over the course of tomorrow as well. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to deliver remarks on his behalf. Today marks a moment of profound significance, not only for the University of Pretoria and the Future Africa campus, but for the entire African continent and the global scientific community. On behalf of Canada, I extend heartfelt congratulations to all who have brought the UNU Hub REACH-AFRICA to life. Canada is very proud of its long-standing partnership with the United Nations University. Since 1996, we have hosted the Institute for Water, Environment and Health, which is currently located in Richmond Hill, Ontario. For nearly 3 decades, Canada has supported its mission to deliver policy-relevant research and training at the intersection of water, environment, and health, with the focus on the needs of low and middle-income countries. This year, as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of the United Nations and the 50th anniversary of the United Nations University, we also witness a new chapter unfolding here in South Africa as it becomes the first African country to hold the G20 presidency. The launch of UNU hubs, beginning at the University of Calgary in Canada, followed by Lund University in Sweden, Hamburg University of Technology in Germany, the City College of New York in the US, and now here at the University of Pretoria at Future Africa, signals a bold step toward regional empowerment and global collaboration. REACH-AFRICA is the first UNU hub in Africa and the Global South. It arrives at a pivotal moment, aligning seamlessly with South Africa's G20 priorities such as disaster resilience, just energy transition, financial sustainability, and responsible development of critical minerals. This hub will strengthen resilience to climate and drought shocks, promote sustainable food systems, and advance inclusive, interdisciplinary research at the nexus of environment, agriculture, climate, and health. It is a platform for co-development, capacity building, and innovation. Canada is proud to stand with South Africa, UNU, and the University of Pretoria in advancing science diplomacy. As South Africa leads the G20 and Canada presides over the G7 in 2025, our shared commitment to evidence-based policy, sustainability, and global equity has never been more vital. Let me close by congratulating the University of Pretoria, Future Africa, UNU Institutes for Water, Environment and Health, and all partners for this visionary achievement. May REACH-AFRICA serve as a beacon of hope, knowledge, and collaboration for generations to come. Thank you very much.
I was wondering where did Prof. Maharaj disappear to, but I see he's at least still here. So last but not least, I'm going to give the closing remarks to Professor Sunil Maharaj, Vice Principal for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Education at University of Pretoria.
Thank you, Wanda. So again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm just between you and the closing of this event, so I'll try and be short. So as we say in South Africa, all protocols observed. I don't want to miss anybody out. And thank you very much for being here. I think it's a great occasion for us as University of Pretoria. And I think I must, universities are not very agile, especially big universities like University of Pretoria. And when this was done in a few months, it was really kind of, I was telling Prof. Peterson, wow, we cannot believe how agile Professor Marwala is being an AI person. Maybe he used some ChatGPT or Grok, I don't know which one, to determine this. But again, I think as Vice Principal, responsible for research and innovation and postgrad at University of Pretoria, I think it's my pleasure to be here today and to contribute the closing remarks and, of course, to celebrate this historic occasion. I think this year for us as UP, it's a very significant year for us because it's the last year for our implementation of what we call our UP 2025 plan. And as we were deeply engaged in considering what we wish to be as a university going into the next phase of our planning process, and of course, what we call UP 130 going forward. I think what is emerging strongly from the different interventions and deliberations we have been having so far is an emphasis towards impact. I think while making a difference locally and globally currently in our different parts of our institution and our vision statement, I think what is likely to be re-emphasized or maybe adapted in our statement is strongly foregrounded in the imperative of societal impact under the hallmark of academic excellence. I think we are pleased as the University of Pretoria by the upward trajectory in our performance in terms of a number of international rankings and partnerships. For example, we have just seen that the number of subjects that UP is ranked number 1 in South Africa and in the top 1% in terms of essential science indicators has really improved quite remarkably. I think our growing interest is basically around what we call sustainability and the SDG rankings. This year and last year, we were ranked number 2 in Africa. And for partnerships in the SDG 17 for goals, we are ranked number 7 in the world. And that shows for more than 2,300 universities that could be ranked in this. So it shows that UP is really putting a lot of effort into sustainability, partnerships, and impact going forward. I think further explained by Professor Marcotte earlier that our Future Africa platform, I think for us, which was a deliberate intervention from university and configured to convene such diverse expertise across Africa's grand challenges, as evidenced by our experience in coordinating large transdisciplinary networks and projects here. And I think I'm not going to repeat them, certainly the ones that are mentioned. I think what's important in terms of this particular program is the one we host as part of the partnership on the Institute for Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention. And certainly we host the important aspect, what's called early warning systems, and that's about how hopefully we don't have a COVID-19, or if there's a COVID-19 equivalent coming on, how we prepare and prevent and have early warnings for that, and using data science, analytics, and of course, real science and epidemiology in those areas. And of course, that's one of the One Health platforms. And of course, we host many other platforms as well. I think we are honored and really privileged and appreciate the fact that, UP was selected to be the first one in Africa to host this. And I think for me, it was not any surprise, because I think if you look at our stature as a university, I think if you look at certainly the QS rankings that came out 2025 a couple of months ago, I think we are ranked number one in South Africa for international research networks. And certainly you look at our work in agriculture and forestry, we are ranked in the top 100, and our citations in South Africa are the highest in the country. And second to us is almost half the number of citations that we have. You also look in terms of the world of science, essential science indicators, that's based on citations and research outputs. Basically, we look at environment, ecology, agricultural sciences, our plant sciences, and economics, which will feed into the economics and the policy of this. We're all ranked in the top 1% in the world in this. So I think it's not only for social good, I think UP is selected, but also for our academic pedigree and our global standing. And we hope we can make that contribution, not only to South Africa, but to Africa as a whole in that space, and something we are really appreciative for. I think of growing interest for us is our performance going forward, as I mentioned, but I think also importantly is under the leadership of Professor Tafatswa, who you saw there, and with the collaboration of a number of highly regarded scholars, both at UP and other universities in South Africa and across the continent, by virtue of our partnership in the ARUA program. ARUA, African Research University Alliance, has 23 university partners across the continent, and we are one of the partners there and play an active role in that. And we see that as a link to a variety of initiatives, including what we call the Lancet Countdown in Africa, a regional center which has already been established here at Future Africa. It is envisaged as an integral part of the center to develop a research chair in climate change and planetary health to address the critical and interconnected challenges posed by climate change on human health and planetary systems, or from an African perspective. So if anybody is keen to join us in this chair, you're most welcome, and we're looking for partners in this particular endeavor going forward. I think the other important thing is that we're in the process of finalizing what I may call the largest research development initiative and innovation initiative in water, with one of the, what I'm told, is the largest Africa water utilities, and that's something we'll announce shortly. And that's going to be a major initiative we see in the water space, and bringing the water, the health, the climate together and we connect the dots, so to speak, I think we'll be in an ideal position at Future Africa to really make a big impact and contribution on the African continent going forward. I think you have heard the substantial in-kind contribution that the university is making in this particular initiative. And of course, as a research leader and that's from the university, and of course, throughout our greater visibility and stronger transdisciplinary synergies, and with the rich collaboration we'll have with the UN agencies and United Nations University, I think we are certainly destined to make this a success and to make an impact in Africa going forward. I think as an African global university, the University of Pretoria is confident that our hosting of the hub will ensure that African expertise helps international climate resources and thus, of course, leveraging impact within the UN system. I think in addressing Africa's interconnected challenges in environment, agriculture, climate, and health through the research, education, and innovation, and of course, policy engagement, which is an important aspect of this. This hub, I think, will strongly focus on our leadership, African leadership, and the context in which we are in, and how we can help each other. As we say in Africa, if you want to go far, you go together. And if you want to go fast, you go alone. And we certainly want to go far. And we hope we can all work together. I think as our Vice Chancellor, Professor Peterson, remarked, that the hub will play a very pivotal role in addressing the most urgent and interlinked environmental and health challenges faced by the world and Africa in particular. These include the rapid population growth, land degradation, and biodiversity loss, climate change, and of course, extreme weather, food, water, and ecological insecurity, and public health threats that we have, including infectious diseases and malnutrition. And we hope that through the different interventions we have, and with this particular intervention, we can really cement the action moving forward. Through our collaborative efforts, we will significantly bolster the responses to these challenges, which currently lack intersectoral integration and are hamstrung by sometimes lack of resources or a lack of good leadership. And we hope through the Future Africa platform, we can help to provide that leadership. I would also like to thank UNU for anchoring this at UP and working together. And Prof. Marwala, I'm sure, thank you very much, because you could have went to the other side of the Yuxke River, but you came to this side, which is great. Thank you very much for that. Of course, thanks for all attending today, and certainly the people that put this program together. It was at short notice with many moving parts, and thank you very much, Wanda and the team, for doing that. I think we look forward to this pioneering hub delivering impactful outcomes through inclusive partnerships between government, civil society, private sector, academia, and local communities. So some of you may not know, for the presidency in South Africa, we host the SDG Hub for the presidency, and we thank our German colleagues for supporting this, because through the GIZ, they fund this particular initiative, and we're looking forward to the next 3 or 5 year partnership going forward in that space. So this all contributes to this SDG activities. So this includes policy-relevant, state-of-the-art research on sustainability, challenges, and training the next generation of African and global change makers. I think ultimately it's our conviction that the hub will support resilient, equitable, and sustainable futures for Africa and the world. And I thank you and look forward to the next part of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. I'm on a new microphone because there needs to be a bit of rearrangements here. So the next part of the program is the exciting part, and also the part where we're now really committing, because we need to do the signing ceremony. So if I can please ask Prof. Marwala and Prof. Madani and the VC, Prof. Peterson, to come to the front, and we will put the table together to do the signing ceremony. And we advise, please ask everybody to stay and observe some of the formalities. Thank you. Just don't break them. Let me take the glasses. Just give the glasses. Are you fine? Maybe just a warm hand of congratulations. Thank you, everyone. So there's one more formality before we will get to a nice lunch and some refreshments, and that is the cut of the ribbon. So we're not going to do that inside here. If you walk out, you will see there's a big building, our Research Commons building, and this is actually where our research staff and our students and everybody is hosted. And there's a blue ribbon, it has to be blue, it's UNU. So there's a nice blue ribbon that we will ask some of the dignitaries to cut. So if you all can go and observe that. If that's finished, you can move to the hub, and there's a nice lunch and some refreshments and an opportunity to interact with everyone. Hey, thank you.